think he can hear you, Ray.
Don't move. It won't hurt you.
I feel the need for speed. Ow! So together we're the Three Amigos.
Right here. Stop. Batman, what happened? Are you okay?
He slimed me. Is it getting hot in here, or is it just me?
No, go past this. Past this part. In fact, never play this again.
Howdy, and welcome to After the Weekend. My fan is blowing my beard all over the place. Perfect intro. Hey, I'm here by myself. R2 and JT are out. So I decided to invite some friends over and have a little bit of a party. So without further ado, because you're just going to hear me ramble and I need somebody to play off of, let's bring in the guy that I hang out with most Tuesday nights and talk movies, Jacob Ironside.
Well,
what's up? And welcome.
Well, good evening, sir. Good to be here. Thanks for inviting me. It's always a fun time.
Yeah.
Look forward to talking
because you
about
never
this.
really know if it's going to go well with me. So you want to be present so you're the first to see it happen.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, it's definitely good to have you here. And there's another guy here, a newer friend, still a good friend, and one that I hang out with on Sunday afternoons, usually, at least so far, nerding out over some Fallout. The man himself. Turns out he does still do this, Mr. Stark.
Hey, the guest is here. Hey, happy to be here.
Welcome. You bring all of the extra stuff, the extra energy, the extra sound, music. I love it.
Hey, that's entertainment. What can I tell you, huh? Yeah, happy to be here. We're going to be talking about the abyss.
Yes, I'm thinking there might be some differing opinions about this movie going forward. So we'll have to get into that in a moment. Let's see. say hello to the folks in the chat. Emma's always, she got to get in here, be the first one. I love that energy. We also got Theta Zord. You know, some might say that second is the best, but who am I to say? This handsome devil just, riling up the chat.
Wait a minute. Who that guy?
I don't know.
Don't know him either.
Let's see here. Oh. Howdy. And R2 the Icky here to... Dang it, I can't have the crazy party I wanted to have because Dad's watching the security cameras. And... yeah, that covers everybody right now. There'll probably be a few more folks that drop in or out here and there.
We got Cap.
Cap
JT
is...
Gunn.
Oh, did he pop it? I didn't scroll all the way back down there. Dang it, both Mom and Dad are watching the cameras.
Well, there you go. You got an Avenger on the panel, and you got an Avenger in the chat. Got you covered.
Yeah. We are safe here, that's for sure. All right. Well, I think without delaying into that, I admitted, and it's very common with people who know me, that this was my first time actually watching The Abyss.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Jacob?
I've seen it a few times, mostly when I was a kid. But yeah, it was good to revisit it and actually see the special edition version.
The extra extended.
Yes.
Tony, I believe when I admitted to you that I hadn't actually seen this before this stream, you reacted with quite a bit of shock. So
I was. It sounded a little bit like this. It's like, how could you? No. The Abyss is a fun film, albeit a bit long.
yes.
You could say that the pressure in the film is at an all-time high. But before we get our feet wet into this bad boy, should probably go ahead and be like, yeah, I haven't seen this in a long minute. Been a while. Of course, I'm the kind of person that procrastinates to the last minute. I actually created a Facebook page for my channel, and like did all this wackadoo stuff like a link tree, and what all these kids are using,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but was able to at least get 3/4 of the way through the hyper extended hypothermic version.
Yeah.
About to say. Yeah, so
Not to jump all
the
the way
band
to
don't
the
need to be
end.
getting no cold feet. But
You're gonna, if you guys hate the dad jokes, I don't know what to say.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I
No,
have
it's
a
okay.
I have a particular radio guy behind me that
Oh yeah.
that forces me to utter these otherwise groan-worthy puns that belong exiting the lips of fathers everywhere to their unsuspecting prey. But this is a very fun film. Don't watch it for the pacing because, general synopsis is they're in deep water. We'll let that one pass, and they have to go from one issue to another, and
Yes.
it's very dark. It's very dismal, and it tries to pull at you constantly throughout the film. So if pacing is something that you don't like, or if free time is something that you do like, then I would recommend watching this film, with a bit of a wide berth. Dedicate some time towards it.
Yeah.
Don't be like me and wait till the last minute and then end up looking like a fool.
there are certain sections, notably the end, that go on a while. The end feels like it's coming for a long time.
Yeah.
But anyway,
And when you watch it, don't let the pressure get to you.
You know what? Let the band give him that one. Come on. Thank you. What prudes? I work with prudes.
Oh man. All right, so I pulled up a couple of I think this is wrong button. I think this is probably the cover that stands out most in people's memories. I know I saw this cover everywhere.
Yeah.
But I pulled up one of the movie posters with the cheesy taglines like they used to have on there. He made your heart pound with the Terminator that he stopped it with aliens. Now, writer director James Cameron presents this summer's most original adventure. Original? Okay, we'll get into that and how it may or may not be Close Encounters underwater.
There were actually two films similar to this that were deep underwater.
Really?
I can't remember what they were. Yeah.
It might be, I don't know. I might touch on one of those possibly later on in some of the trivia. I can't remember. But then the other one is the 4K Blu-ray edition. It just doesn't have the same feel as this one right here. This makes you feel as isolated.
Mm-hmm.
Like that one a lot better.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's dive into kind of the story as it goes. I've just got some screenshots throughout the film here. We don't have to necessarily go all in order, jump around as the conversation kind of happens. And but Tony, you kind of led into it. These at the very beginning of the movie, we see a submarine, and this is set in 94, I think.
Well, the film came out in 1989. It did have a bit of a time jump, but it was right at the cusp of the wall coming down, which is pivotal for this piece because it's similar to Crimson Dawn in the fact that it's set underwater and we're on the cusp of nuclear war based on some of the decisions that some people in the military are forced to make on the fly, assigned to the vessel. But unlike Crimson Dawn, it's not like okay, we need to launch the nukes and we need to do it now. Everybody could be nuking each other already. It's more like there's these things, and they are very strange. They like to use what we would consider Soviet water tentacles to communicate. We don't like that. Military no likey. Drop a bomb on them.
Well, and the uncertainty that we have with what eventually the crew get themselves into when they lose contact, and the fact that this is near Cuban waters, they're basically everybody's on high alert for war kicking off. They just don't know it down here.
Right. They have no idea what's going on the surface outside of the fact that a hurricane reminded them that it was going overhead. And another joke is, very, very, very few hurricanes are named after men. But this one's name was Hurricane Frederick, which, cracked wise. And of course, that was our intro segue into meeting Elizabeth, the designer of this oil rig, which this is a deep water oil rig designed to plant new derricks to be able to extract oil and send it up to the surface. Common technology that we still use today. But there was some revolutionary things with like the robotic probe subs and the single man subs. It was featuring a lot of the stuff that, a lot of people at the time didn't know just how intricate and how delicate these systems were, that if one system failed, every bit of it failed. As sturdy as those rigs look, so it is a house of cards. You knock one over and the rest are going to come down.
Right. This kind of set up as this sort of like pseudo like believable future, do all your drilling underwater thing. Because they do what's it called, for long periods of working deep underwater. Oh, I had it earlier and my brain is shut down because I'm hosting a show now. But where instead of going through decompression, you would just go into like an underwater pod like that and live in the same pressure that you experience outside of it. So you don't have to spend hours and hours and hours decompressing and then just go back in and do it again. It's very taxing on the human body. Which honestly, and this is a little nitpick, but I'm glad they didn't do it. To make this believable, they would be breathing very high helium content air and everybody's voices would be squeaky. That would be,
they would be very squeakier. Yeah. The other thing about the polar bear swim from Pod 3 and where him and can't remember the other guy's name, but the country guy had to make a break for the third door down, the third hatch down. I got news for you guys. There is no way that you're able to do a polar bear swim when you're about 1,500 meters underwater. Sorry, that's just not how that works. No. You would be crushed into a fine paste.
Yeah.
But yes.
The other character was named Catfish.
Yeah.
Ah, yes, Catfish.
A lot of nicknames in this movie.
But yeah, the kind of the main two, you mentioned her earlier. We see her there on the bottom right, being Lindsay Brigman, married to, there on the left, Ed Harris, Bud Brigman. I swear they called him something else a couple of times, and I think Bud must have been his nickname, but whatever. He's leading this whole thing, and they kind of get commandeered by the military to go after this submarine that they've lost, to recover some stuff, because you don't really just want to leave a whole bunch of nukes sitting down there and anything else that somebody else might be able to recover if you can recover it yourself. So they get dragged over to the edge of this really deep trench where the sub is kind of precariously perched near. I think they go down to 2,000 feet is like kind of where they're based at, but they go a little bit deeper down to actually get to the submarine.
Right.
But like you also said,
the trench goes 2 miles down.
Yes, the trench goes 2 miles down. But yeah, they kind of
they did this because there's a storm coming in, and this was the fastest way to get to where the sub was.
Right. And yeah, they do send down a couple of Navy SEALs. That's right. And that's one of them
Led
here.
by
in the
Corporal
top
Hicks
left.
over here with a mustache.
Yes.
And
Um,
discount Michael J. Fox there.
yeah. And yeah, so they're all, there's back and forth because the guy Bud is in charge of the rig, but they're having to have follow military orders, and um, the military guys steal one of their submarines, and the one that's got the cloth they need to detach from their mothership so that they don't get dragged around in the storm, to go back to the submarine. Um, and they're back. They're gone like something like 2 hours, and they get back. They're one of their sub pilots one night. She jumps in, heads out there, and is trying to disconnect the umbilical, and just can't do
The
it.
crane, yeah.
Yeah, and up on top, they lose some of their thrusters on the ship that's keeping them stationary. Then those things are only good, even modern ones these days, up to certain amounts of weather. And they start drifting. It ends up pulling the crane down right next to the station, which is a deep core, I think is what it's called.
Right.
But yeah, that ends up falling over the edge and drags them right to the edge of the trench that there's no coming back from.
Sorry, my phone. Oh, silence.
That's okay.
Well, you know me.
And it actually it comes
Perfectionist, dude.
down. The crane comes down and lands like on the edge, and they think,
Yeah.
"Oh, it stopped," and then it goes over the edge and pulls them toward the edge.
Yeah.
You're living on the edge.
Because...
You can't stop the crane from falling.
Oh God, that's me stuck in my head now.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. But yeah, some of the they're in bad shape anyway because other stuff is things have ruptured, certain compartments have flooded, communications are out because the tether's gone, but they also don't have like their untethered radio communications. So they're trying to like patch things up and get things to somewhat working order so they can try to contact the surface. And that's when
they lose a Navy SEAL, and some of their team get killed.
Yeah, because they get stuck behind an automatically like hydraulically powered door, and they can't get it open without cutting the hydraulics, which actually comes into play a little bit later when Bud gets caught. He nearly gets caught in the same way. And I have a hard time believing his wedding ring would have kept his finger from getting cut off by a hydraulically powered door.
Yeah, I don't see that happening either.
Precursor T2, yes. Yes, the
similar
the
CGI
digital channel has a great breakdown of how they did this water effect.
And this T2 came out in '92, so this was a good field test for that kind of CG where there was just liquid metal or liquid molding,
right?
Kind of effects.
Which
was very revolutionary.
Even a lot more for T2 because really the way they did it for this is pretty genius in its simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's when shortly after all that, when they're trying to get patched up, that's when we get our first glimpse of something out there. And Lindsay's out there trying to fix things because she designed the station, so she kind of knows how everything should be working. And is so amazed by this glowing light that she totally forgets that she has a camera on her hip until it's zipping away.
Right.
Yep.
And
the power goes out. All the power goes out when these objects approach.
Yep. So there's no actually communicating when it's happening. And of course, nobody really believes her because of stressful situation. There's this thing that they mentioned early on called like high pressure something or other that kind of makes you go a little nuts, a little crazy, messes with your head. So everybody's kind of thinking that maybe she's starting to show the early signs of that. Probably just because she's a woman.
Meanwhile, Corporal Hicks with the mustache, or the lieutenant in this instance of the SEAL team, is the one suffering from it.
Yeah, Lieutenant Coffee.
Lieutenant Coffee.
He shows some signs early on, but he keeps them all hidden because he's one of those do the mission regardless and just You don't want to get pulled out of the
Well, he's a
mission. But of
Marine.
course, at this point, also you can't get taken out of the mission because they can't get away. Plus, they'd have to. It's dangerous because they have to decompress. I think it's mentioned like 3 weeks or something like that from the depth they're in.
Right.
Yeah.
But
it's crazy.
Yeah, nobody's believing her until. I mean, they're having a big back and forth. And the tension with the military guys is going up. They're sneaking around and doing something. They've brought something back from the submarine. They're kind of keeping it hidden away and locked up. But then the water tentacle just starts probing around. Do with that what
their
you will.
version of Little Geek.
Yep. But yeah, like we said, great water effect. It mimics her face and then his face, and they've gone on with this like non-terrestrial intelligence (NTIs). So we don't know what that actually looks like. She's kind of felt what was out there, and it felt a little bit like water. This water thing comes in. She sticks her finger in its face and then tastes what comes out. That seems like a weird move to me.
Yeah, you don't even know what kind of medium they're using, but she's definitely taking a risk with, because if you look at how the ships are designed, like the small one, the one that kind of looks like a miniature, kind of like one of their one-man pods.
Or their
if you look at if you look at the details of it, how intricate it is, bioluminescent. There's a lot of movement of electricity. Now the thing is that what I think, and this is just a theory, is when they are around, they do siphon electrical systems because they are of a physics called EHD, which is electrohydrodynamics, which is the kind of stuff that we use in our deep space probes for propulsion. The Voyager 2 and the Voyager 1, the fins reflect solar wind and use ionized particles to act as a form of movement. When these things submerged in pure water, they're obviously able to maneuver at a much higher speed and you could tell that they're very light and they're very like translucent, like jellyfish. They're you can touch it, you can push your hand through it. That basically tells me that they have mastered that kind of technology, that kind of propulsion technology. It's why they were able to put that mothership down there in the first place, and all these different malleable objects that they could just seemingly at will mold as extensions of themselves.
Yeah. And that the water face there, that turns out to be more of something they controlled, not necessarily them. So,
right.
I mean, so they have we see it several times in the film after this. They have some sort of mastery and ability to control water. So, I mean, they could even just be increasing the density of the water behind them and decreasing it in front of them, and just basically, Star Trek warp bubble, but in water.
Yeah.
But there's a lot there. There's a lot of questions, and we don't get a lot of answers on exactly what they are. And I don't mind that.
And for the time, all the technical stuff inside these ships is amazing for the time period. They did a really good job at doing all that.
They definitely display their mastery over their craft.
Yeah. It's so
time for the claustrophobia.
Oh, I couldn't even shoot on this film as an actor, let alone be like this for real.
Yeah.
Military guy goes full on bonkers. He's just,
and
he pulls guns and locks everybody away and is determined to fulfill his mission, which is going to be nuke what's left of the submarine. But of course, she's got the idea of do we really be setting off nukes around a probably intelligent, maybe more advanced than we are species that we just discovered?
Yeah, right.
It's not necessarily the best kind of welcome wagon, you roll out for someone.
No. So the crazy Navy SEAL straps a nuke to one of the remote controlled subs and is going to send that down there.
Yep.
Yeah, because they had already programmed that sub to operate off umbilical to go down into the trench to just kind of try to take pictures randomly so they could try to see if there was anything else down there, get some sort of evidence that they can show people. Because she's still trying to convince people like Coffee there, because he's still thinking that what took their submarine out was Russians, and so he's still focused in on that. But they get into it's called a bumper cars match with their submersibles.
Yeah, right.
Those things a lot more punishment than I thought they would, but
almost too much.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Surprised that the cockpit glass was never dinged once in that entire scuffle.
Right.
One of them, the one he's driving at the very least, they must have thought about that because they modeled some metal stripping across it, which still wouldn't be enough because you wouldn't have to hit it very hard under pressure to have a problem.
Well, the metal stripping is just what the the divers in the suits would attach themselves to whenever a full crew that couldn't fit inside the submersible. That was a flat top. They called them a flat top.
Yeah. So, something cool too. The subs they used were actual remote controlled subs that were probably, it looks about 1/6 scale size.
Well, they did a lot
cool.
of real size stuff, but they also used a completely duplicate set for miniatures in a similar location that I'll get into exactly where this was filmed later on. But it looks really good. Full size and miniatures, you can't really tell the difference.
You can, the trained eye can, you could tell like whenever they were using the mini, because they would just, layer the film with the pilot and on the set in the bubble.
The compositing was good most of the time, but there were a couple of times where it stood out. But I'm an uncultured swine, so I hadn't seen this, but I knew this. I don't want to call it gimmick, but this scenario from that TV show Archer, where they only have like 2 diving suits, and he volunteers to drown in the icy cold water and be revived, and that's what happens here because Bud and Lindsay kind of get their subs disabled, and it's flooding, and they only have the one suit that he wore out there trying to catch Coffee and keep him from sending the nuke. And she does a thing I don't think I could do, and just volunteers to, I'm going to drown in the icy
I'm going to
water.
die,
I'm going to die, but you can bring me back.
Well, this is the problem that I have with this. Now, I'm a guy that does machines. I'm Donatello. I'm not a medic. I don't claim to be a doctor, not even a nurse, okay? But, common sense dictates that brain death usually happens within 10 minutes. And if your body has stopped for 10 minutes, if your heart has stopped for 10 minutes, it becomes exponentially worse for every second after that moment. Okay?
Yeah.
So they're dragging her through the briny depths under the assumption that the ice cold temperatures will slow brain death when it's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
It's the exact opposite. There's no she said, it's like borderline cryo freezing. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. The theory of, cold temperatures help you survive. It works. The younger you are, the better chances you have. But they're not brain dead. They're not, took in water and drown and are dead. They're still alive. But
But
after 10 minutes? After 10 minutes?
No. Yeah, I've heard of a child being underwater for like 16 minutes, and they brought him back. Yeah. But the younger you are, the better chance you have.
Okay.
But yeah.
So is there a possibility that what they did with her is that plausible?
I think that there's probably at least enough anecdotal evidence to suggest that it would possibly work. My biggest problem with this scene was that seconds matter here.
Yeah.
And he spends like 30 seconds just holding her after she gets under the water. I mean, even after when she stops moving, so you can't even argue that like he's waiting for her to, not struggle against him to make it harder to swim back. Even at that point, I don't care. Take the chance. Just
tie a rope around here and get to paddling. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he does let out the big dramatic scream. Okay, it's all right. And they almost don't bring her back, and I think that actually probably. I don't know if I necessarily would wanted to go ahead and let that death linger, just let it happen.
Right.
But parental warning if folks are watching this, I did not know that there were boobs in this. It's a PG-13 film, and I guess they got away with it because it's not on camera very long, and it's a medical thing.
If you blink, you'll miss it.
Yeah. I want to mention that because R2 tries to keep a lot of this family friendly. So if you want to sit down with your kids, you can watch it. Maybe they can handle the high, tension stuff. But yeah, didn't know I was going to see that. I just thought they were going to do the Hollywood thing and act like defibrillators work through a shirt, but they did the realistic thing and called them out and said, no, it's got to be skin contact.
I have to say something about
what about
this time period of James Cameron movies. He tries to be as accurate as possible, given the movie they're in. So
the defibrillators against sopping cold wet water.
Yeah.
As well, that's also something.
And everybody's wet.
Accountability. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hail to Divertin in the chat. Hail
Yes,
to pleasure to meet you. Hail to R2 the Icky. Hail to you, sir.
So actually,
this is cool. This is kind of cool.
In
the first of this, they're like, we have this fluid stuff that you can breathe in. They're like, what? So he grabs one of this guy's pet rat and shoves it down in the water and holds it in there. And it's real. This is actually real.
Mm-hmm.
This stuff is real, but it was not, you could not use it on a person because it was just like in its infancy. Who knows what they have now, but it's pretty cool.
I thought about including that slide, and it's okay because the rat was fine, but it's obviously struggling because that's not a normal thing to do. And I didn't, it didn't offend me, but I didn't know if somebody watching this would look at that and not want to see it, especially since I was going to be leaving it up for a little while. Instead, we'll just watch Ed Harris get flooded with it.
Because human cruelty, ladies and gentlemen, is definitely a lot better.
But of course, they chickened out and made it with special effects, so he wasn't actually in there.
No, but they do actually get a take of him, them filling it up with liquid, the helmet, and he's holding his breath, but it's not very long. But most of the other times, it's like there's like a thin layer in between two pieces of
glass,
plastic or
because
whatever.
When it's filling, you would be able to see that line on the face. So when it's filling, you need to have that for the effect. And I think that's probably the instance where the rumor at least is that Ed Harris punched James Cameron in the face because instead of getting him out of there when he was failing to hold his breath, he kept filming.
Yeah, right.
But I think I'll let Jacob have the floor a little bit on maybe some of the behind the scenes, just how bad the conditions were, because I think you know a little bit more about it than me. But yeah, they set up the liquid, the breathable, liquid oxygenated flora. I don't know. I've got it someplace later. But it's to let his body stand higher pressures. Don't know if that is actually how it would work in real life. I'm going to say at least there's some evidence there, but he's got to go down deeper than anybody's gone before to try to disarm this nuke that's had a 3-hour timer, because it's beyond the sub. Right. So it's not even that it's going to destroy the sub and the station because they're so close. It's they don't want to nuke these potential aliens that might decide they just want to take everybody out. So he's trying to do the nice thing.
Right.
And the visuals, so good. Just that isolation, the darkness setting in. The lights on the ROV bust from the pressure, so he's only got like this little green, like glow stick chemical light. And
yeah,
he's losing communication. And I missed this the first time I watched it. I skimmed through it again a little bit before the show. Okay. First of all, it's a nice little touching moment, kind of a reconnection between him and his wife because they barely get along. And one night, their submersible pilot tells her when he's getting kind of panicky. You need to talk to him, Lindsay. Talk to him. And she starts like, okay, you're going down this. He's like, no, talk to him. And so she starts kind of reminiscing and reconnecting and things like that. And I thought it was also really nice that Catfish jumped in when she couldn't keep going, and they managed to get him.
Yeah.
They managed to get him calmed down a bit.
Yes.
But the little detail is
it's crazy.
Sorry, go ahead, Jacob.
Oh no, I think you're about to say it. Go ahead.
Oh, when he gets down there, the color of that light, because he's got the only of the one of the SEALs that didn't go fully nuts and everything is actually helping them out. So he's telling them how to disarm this thing. He says, cut the blue wire with the like white stripe and not the yellow wire with the black stripe. But in that greenish light, it looks the same.
Yeah.
Oh yes, Isaac. It's an older movie, so yes, there are going to be spoilers.
It's an older film, sir, but it checks out.
I still think it's worth seeing. I knew some of the story beats from this, so there were a lot of like what should have been like shocking moments that I wasn't shocked by, but I still think it's worth a watch. But if you want to come back and check this out later after you get a chance to watch it, that works too. But yeah, because this is basically in the meat of the everything. So yeah, we're in spoiler territory. But yeah, he has a 50-50 shot to disarm this bomb. He gets it, but he doesn't have enough oxygen left to come back up.
Right.
And that's where we get that message, because he can't speak with that stuff in his lungs. He typed out, I knew this was a one-way ticket, but I had to. And,
I love you, wife.
Yes. And she obviously, breaks down. Everybody is sad to see him go. The camaraderie between the cast was really good here. It kind of made me feel a lot like what you get out of the first Alien movies. Like they feel like actual people who have worked together doing that job for a while.
Yeah.
Now, this is when we're getting to the spoilerist of spoilers, and it's the aliens, or NTIs.
I'm not saying it's the aliens, but it's the aliens.
Yep. But Bud gets rescued by, I guess they're humanoid-ish, and that's like a manta ray, something that they've created to swim around. It's
a diving suit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's left.
They resemble
that
they resemble the aliens from. They have a very similar design to the aliens that pilot the exosuits in Independence Day. The what's inside the thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Very light, very lightweight, translucent-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay if a cat's meowing in the background, Tony. It's fine.
It's okay.
Yeah, he gets dragged down to their city ship base, this massive thing, and they make a little air bubble for him. And this is where the ending kind of starts dragging on a little bit, and it kind of falls into that whole war, humanity bad, but we just are going to wipe you out sort of trope. So they show that they've been watching all their news broadcasts, and around this time, the Deep Core starts getting messages that like, oh wait, no, he's getting the messages that the world is panicking, something's happening, and we see that there's just tidal waves on every coastline.
Yeah.
Which I didn't see that coming, honestly. That did surprise me. And
Yeah.
I will say the tidal waves, at the very least, the compositing there looked pretty nice. Because that's not easy to do, especially with the Golden Gate Bridge. But that's when we get that message. Because everything kind of starts going peaceful again, and they replay the message that he had sent. It was one-way ticket, but I had to, love you, wife. And I can't say that's the strongest way to end it.
Yeah,
it's a little sappy.
Yeah.
It's overdone, especially for the time period. I think it was, everybody wanted peace, obviously, and everybody was scared of war breaking out again. But it's okay.
Yeah. So that sentence that the aliens see stop them from destroying the Earth.
Yep.
Yeah.
The one man who had, accidentally snipped the right wire on a nuke.
Right.
I'll be right back, gentlemen.
All right, we'll be here. But yes, then their whole ship rises, or I say city ship rises to the surface because it's massive. It reminded me actually a lot of Stargate Atlantis coming to the surface the first time.
Yeah, and it's got several like battleships and the oil ship and the oil rig are all on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's massive. It's a massive ship, and it could be bigger underneath the water.
Yeah,
because
absolutely could. Probably is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this kind of just wraps up real quick. It's just like they get another message from, says he's alive and he's got friends coming up. This pops up, he walks out, and the movie's like, they kiss and the movie's over.
Yeah. It was not a rom-com, but it was a romance movie.
It kind of was.
I guess you could say. Yeah.
I think
it was kind of predictable. It was kind of predictable in the beginning that the husband and wife are mad or don't like each other and they always fight, but you kind of guess that they're going to make up before the end.
Right. I mean, he even had thrown his wedding ring in their chemical toilet. He had to reach down in there and fish it out. It's just gross.
Yeah, some of the other characters are like, why is your hand blue?
Stopping from listening to the Elon Trump talk, you guys thumbs up, say hold water in the helmet scene gave me nightmares as a kid. Yeah, I believe it. Yeah. Thank you for dropping by, buddy. Appreciate it. But I think, let me see what's coming up next. Yeah, wait for Tony to get back here because we're gonna shift gears and guess the budget and the box office on this. So if anybody in the chat wants to contribute and start thinking that over, we're going to switch over to that in just a moment. But overall, I think this looks pretty good still.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, before we get to the budget stuff,
if you want to, get into some of the technical and the production hell of this movie.
Sure, veritable production hell. Yes, it did go through.
Hit us with a few of those, Jacob.
So yeah, they were looking for a place to film this, and that could hold a lot of water and stuff. They were thinking ocean, but they found a nuclear power plant cooling tank that hadn't been used, and it's just sitting there. So they fill that thing with water and get to filming. Well, the problem is that much water, the algae in it started filling up, and they couldn't film it. So they just dumped a bunch of chlorine in the water, which burned people's skin. So it is crazy. Just one thing after another. James Cameron almost drowns in it. He forgets to check his air, and he starts freaking out and waving at a safety diver. So the safety diver comes up and puts a new regulator in his mouth that's defective and starts shooting water down his throat. And he pushes that guy away and swims to the top. So yeah, he was very close to drowning. And the water was cold, and just they had to have heating tanks that they could go sit in between takes because the water was so cold, and it was just hell. And crazy stuff. That's just a little bit of the crazy stuff that went on. Several of the actors did not talk about this movie because it was such a traumatic experience. But yeah.
Doing my research for this, I came across the fact that at one point Ed Harris is quoted as saying, asking him about the abyss is like asking a soldier about Vietnam.
Yeah.
He had very strong opinions.
Hail to Def Row in the chat. Pleasure to meet you. And hail to I Had to Say It. Well, what a wonderful name there. You have the weakness, the one weakness of the Knights Who Say Knee.
No, both of those are good guys. Aaron from I Had to Say It, he's got a good podcast. I like it. I like listen to that whenever I'm like, I don't really know what to say. I just need to vent. But that man has the gift of just venting and talking, and he's got a wonderful voice.
Well, looks like I'm going to have to meet this guy. I might have a little bit of competition here.
Look, there's enough beard to go around. Y'all chill out.
Yeah.
I kind of like being able to say that I'm good at what I do.
Well, let's get to, as I'm searching over here, because I don't do this that often.
You don't know the box office, but I do. I know.
Well, this is the thing. We give the people in the chat a chance to guess. If anybody on the panel wants to join in, of course. We'll get to that.
Let's have the fine folks do that. I'll go ahead and load us some.
Oh, here, I got this right here. Hold on.
Oh, okay.
1192 12
Do we need a drum roll?
I mean, what do you? Oh, so you know this already, Tony? You said you know the budget and box office.
I know the box office.
Okay, want to take a stab at what you think the budget was?
I'd say the budget was around, if I were to give it a guess, maybe $15 million.
15? Okay.
Yeah.
Jacob, do you have any idea? Any guess?
I was thinking with all that. I mean, they built that set and all that stuff. They built the remote control stuff. Man, I want to go. I'm going to go for 18.
18 million. And we also, I did the math. So if anybody wants to guess for production budget at the time, I've also adjusted for inflation. So I don't usually know much about old movie production. I don't know much about new movie production, but I think more in modern costs for things.
Datazord in the chat says 13 million. Yeah.
Jacob, you have any idea for the box office?
Just let me know when I can hit that drum roll.
I mean, it released in 89, and then they had like the director's version, special edition, that actually they released it again in 93. So if we're just talking the 89 one,
I'm assuming this is the numbers that I've got. So while you're processing that, Aaron says
I would say 21 million.
Okay. Aaron says for the time they committed a lot of resources to it. The animation of the aliens had to be pricey. I'd say about 20 million-ish. Emma's chiming in with 24 million. I'll give you guys just a few more seconds to guess anything for box office, and then I'll let Tony cue that drum roll, because I can almost picture your like drum roll finger twitching just over that button.
What are you talking about? I got a band behind me.
Oh, that's right. I'm so sorry.
And crickets too.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and cue that drum roll. We'll it's a long drum roll. There it is. All right, budget of
wouldn't even close.
I know.
90 million right there.
Yeah, budget for the at the time was somewhere between 43 to 47 million dollars, and they about doubled what they put into it. I mean,
good profit. James Cameron raising the bar.
Yeah.
South Park did that joke. I know.
I was the furthest away. I win. I like how you play the game, right?
You're the best at losing.
And I'm gonna peek ahead in the slides again and make sure I'm queuing up the right thing. Yeah, so they did all right. I mean,
yeah.
If you factor in how marketing, maybe not as good as they would hoped, because that can eat up a lot. Maybe not so much back then as it would today. But speaking of back then, let's take a look at, I really hope this is the right one. Let's take a look at what was in the theaters.
Shut your drums and stop kicking us face! We're trying to watch the movie!
There we go. It's almost like I know what I'm doing. Almost. So, yeah.
Nightmare 5. God. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, though. Very, very nice.
Batman on week 8.
Batman.
Lethal Weapon 2, week 6. But yeah, the only thing it lost out to was Parenthood, that was in its second week. But it didn't lose by much, only 300,000.
No, not a bad haul. Not a bad haul at all.
Yeah, we very often say this when we take a look at the box office back in the day, is those are the good old days when you didn't even have to necessarily know which movie you're going to see, but you could bet that there's going to be at least one good one on there, and there's almost always 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Those were the days.
It's true. It's very true. Yeah, I think we're kind of wrapping towards the end here. Before that roll it back. Jacob kind of stepped on a couple of my facts, but that's fine because I do that to R2 the Icky all the time. No, it is totally fine. I have to put together a few at the end. So let's get to those, and then we'll get into any specific thoughts or opinions and reviews on the movies, anything that maybe we've skipped over that you want to hit.
That's the fact, yeah! That's the fact, yeah!
And I apologize for these looking very boring and businesslike. I worked on this a while, and by the time I got to this point, my eyes were hurting.
Man, my eyes are bleeding in Windows 95.
Yeah. It really does look like it. But anyway, let me get through these. They're kind of wordy, so I'll try to keep this short. Real oxygenated fluorocarbon fluid was used in the rat fluid breathing scene, as we mentioned before. Dr. Johannes Kilstra and Dr. Peter Bennett of Duke University pioneered this technique and consulted on the film, giving detailed instruction on how to prepare the fluid. The only reason for cutting to the actors' faces was to avoid showing the rats defecating from momentary panic as they began breathing the fluid. And that was actually cut from the movie entirely for the European release, because Europe is a bunch of pansies. Very few scenes involve stunt people. When Bud drags Lindsay back to the rig, that's really Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, and that is a name, holding her breath when the rig is being flooded and characters are running from the water, drowning behind closed doors, dodging exploding parts of the rig. Those are all actors, not stunt people. Part of the reason that so many people who worked on this hated it, and they kind of bucked the trend where I think only one came back to work with James Cameron again, whereas usually he brings people back all the time. As Jake mentioned a little bit earlier, the water in the 2 tanks was chlorinated heavily to prevent microbes growing in it. This caused skin burns, as well as many of the actors' hair to become green and even white. Due to this, the crew had to apply Vaseline to their hair and skin for protection while filming for several hours underwater. That's just slippery.
That's hilarious.
Cast members had to become certified divers before filming began. The deep core crew started training together in the Caribbean 1 month before filming in order to create a sense of camaraderie. Ed Harris was not among them. He was still filming another movie, so he got a certificate while training in a lake nearby. The actors playing the SEALs received separate military training. At the end of the shoot, Harris was actually the most accomplished diver at the professional level, despite not having trained a single day in the actual ocean.
Wow.
He's a natural.
He is. He just won't come back for it. He won't come back for Abyss 2, that's for sure.
Head underwater.
The crew frequently spent enough time underwater to actually force them to undergo decompression before surfacing. James Cameron would often watch dailies through a glass window while decompressing and hanging upside down to relieve the stress on his shoulders from the weight of the helmet. And the water tank for filming was filled to a depth of 40 feet, but there was still too much light from the surface, so a giant tarp and billions of tiny black plastic beads floated on the surface. This had the advantage of being dense enough to completely block out the light, yet fluid enough for divers to break through in case of emergency. The downside was that the cast crew kept pulling small beads from their hair and folds, I guess clothes, for months. And unfortunately, during a violent storm, the tarp was ripped off, and then they had to shift production to nighttime, which would just make all that water even colder. And the final one, with a bonus little picture, as Jacob alluded to a little bit earlier, James Cameron was determined to actually film major portions of this movie underwater. He felt that the way that the most contemporary films shot such scenes, slow motion filming on a set filled with smoke or in the ocean with stunt divers, looks very unconvincing. Or let's see, very unconvincing, with the exception of The Deep from 1977. So he hired that film's underwater cinematographer, Al Giddings. And while searching for a tank for filming, during pre-production, he was advised a half-completed nuclear reactor facility in Gaffney, South Carolina, that was intended to be used as a movie studio. When Cameron saw the facility's nuclear reactor housing, a 50-foot tall bowl with 240 feet in diameter, he decided that the structure was ideal as it could accommodate huge sets and its walls would not be visible on screen. I didn't really think about that with the curved walls. It just kind of blends into everything. It's not very noticeable. The reactor designed a tank, or designated a tank, thus became the largest underwater set in the world. That's 7.5 million gallons. And the turbine pit was used as B tank for miniature special effects filming. And that's what I assume is the remnants of the set after shooting.
Yeah.
Low to be when the romance is done.
So, overall thoughts on this film, what you like, what you didn't like, would you recommend it? Don't have to give a rating, but if you want to, Tony, what do you think?
Well, this film is it's long, it's deep, it's repetitive, kind of like these jokes. But you know, it's a film that's, you know, definitely showcases what can be done with practical effects and with discipline sometimes forced upon the cast and crew. James Cameron used to be one of the best directors of his time, and this is part of a legacy of movies that were back to back to back to back. It does falter with its length and its pacing. You know, there's going to be that group of people that's going to go, oh, come on. You know, whenever there's like another problem that the movie does kind of pander almost to a patronizing level of the audience of how many times are you going to think that it's all going to be for naught, that they're going to die. That does take from it just a wee bit. But overall, I would recommend it simply just as a case study of what can be done on a set and what you can get out of a crew and cast, much to the chagrin of both. Theta Zord's got my number right there, 7 out of 10. It's worth your time. It's worth your time. It tickles your if you're like me and you like to put a little scientific analysis into it, you know, a little pseudoscience into it. just to go, okay, well, how would they do this? It does do that, but only at the very end, whenever you finally get to see the things. But other than that, it's a movie, and it's not a bad one. So yeah, 7 out of 10.
All right, Jacob, you messaged me the other day, and you said something like, "I'm 2/3 of the way through this 3-hour slog or whatever, and I have thoughts." So, would you like to share some of those thoughts?
Well, first, I'll just say it is a good movie. It has some amazing technical stuff that they did in this movie is phenomenal. The only thing I don't like is the depiction of the Navy SEALs or the military in it. They depict them as they're just morons, just automatons that just take orders and don't think for themselves and stuff. And especially the Navy SEALs. The Navy SEALs are top notch of the military, and they depict them like they're just what are they? A recruit or something, but they're not. They're very highly trained and very intelligent. But yeah, I can nitpick. I can nitpick about it, but it's a movie. It's a good movie. One thing that I thought, I always find this hilarious, when they take when the bad guy's not looking, they take the clip out of the gun. It's like, that's a lot of weight to that gun. All the rounds.
Yes.
So that was
even
Yeah.
being an
But
old full metal
okay.
frame, it still would be noticeable.
It's a noticeable weight difference, but again, the guy is also off of his rocker. That's what I told myself.
Yeah, they get away with a lot by him having that, whatever that issue is that's messing with his head, because he's just legitimately going crazy.
Yeah.
So, but you still would recommend watching it, right, Jacob?
Yeah, I would definitely.
Yeah,
either one, the theatrical or if you're willing to do it, the special edition, like 3-hour version.
Yeah, I mean, the original is still a long film because it only adds in like 20 to like 23 minutes of extra footage, but in the portrayal of the military, it fits the narrative that they were making, like for the end of the story, the kind of point they were making about war and such. And that's kind of, like I said earlier, it's kind of a product of the time, the period that this film was made in, because that wasn't uncommon to see elsewhere.
Right.
And that stuck around for a while, actually. But it is a long film. Like I said, this was my first time watching it. Some of the scenes could be trimmed back a little bit, but I mean, and I made the joke. It's actually, my dad told me years ago when he stumbled across it on TV, that it's kind of like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, but underwater. And when you think about Close Encounters, it's not exactly a fast pace. It's better paced than this, but it's not exactly a fast paced movie. So at least until you get to the end, where kind of it just drags on. It kind of has that same mysterious feeling, at least the first time when you watch it. So it kind of will hold your attention, even though things aren't necessarily moving along very quickly. And I do agree with you, Tony, the constant falling back into peril and will they make it kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
That's kind of a, it does kind of, they use that a lot, but this is a weird film because it's kind of a romance film. It's kind of a disaster porn film. It may be alien film. It's kind of all over the place. But
it's a movie.
It is a movie. I would probably agree with like the 7 out of 10. It's worth a watch. Maybe just not going back and revisiting all the time.
Yeah, and two, it's not horror. Like you'd expect an alien movie. It's not that. It's more suspenseful than anything.
Yeah, it's
and the other two movies that came out the same year. Yeah, the other two movies that came out the same year, in 98 or 89, was Leviathan and Deep Star 6, which were both horror movies.
Okay.
But it takes place on deep sea oil rigs.
Okay. Veda Zorge recommended
I would
Sphere, which I
actually
haven't seen either.
recommend Leviathan. It's like
Okay.
the Thing-esque kind of.
Oh,
It's more along those lines. So it's not bad. But yeah.
All right.
Yeah, this was a good movie.
Well, thank you everybody for putting up with my rambling. When I get just a little bit nervous, it happens, which is weird because I don't talk much in my day-to-day life. But let's go around here. Jacob, what you got coming up?
Tomorrow night I'll be going over the movie The Untouchables with a fun movie. It's a good movie, I would say. But yeah, I'll be going over that. That'll be fun. And
Real strong
got a
sell there.
good group of people to go over it with. So it'll be fun. And Thursday I'll be on Roman's show. I think it's a free range. And that's about it. That's all I got.
All right. And Tony, you're up. And I totally forgot to just let you have the floor and tell people who you are, what you do at the very beginning of the show. So tell people who you are, what you do, where they can find you, and anything like that.
On YouTube, you will find the channel at D-Stock-CEO. We are a comedy channel, an entertainment channel, a broadcasting channel that is of caliber similar to some of the greatest YouTubers on the planet. Or in this case, in the planet. If you like impersonations, songs, skits, parodies, radio drama, and anything and everything in between, reviews, previews, news, and maybe even get a little loose, then please check out Sakavaya right here on YouTube.
That's how you plug a channel.
Jacob, we have all got to up our game now.
We do.
Just put to shame. But yeah, this guy is a talented man. Like you said, everything. You never really know what character is going to show up on his show. You just do not. And it's a lot of fun. Very supportive of everybody out there, and recently crossed the threshold to 1,000 subscribers. Congratulations, of course.
No, we hit 1,000K right as I got fired. Isn't that neat?
Life be like that sometimes.
Right on the needle.
All right, and I won't delay. I kind of like you mentioned earlier, Tony, I got a link tree together at it's BeardOfLiberty. I'll have to. I don't think Jacob, or not Jacob. I don't think JT put that in the description for this because it's new. But I'm going to get that put down in the description for this this video. It's got everything. It's basically my schedule too. So I've got links to all the other shows I'm on, including Jacob's, which I'm going to be on Tuesday, Roman's on Thursday, and Tony's on Sundays. So and I started streaming on my own channel at BeardOfLiberty, doing some video games. Currently doing Fallout London, and I need to put together a sizzle reel. I cannot disappoint Tony 3 weeks in a row. But I think that'll be it. Any final thoughts, last words, or last dad jokes? I guess.
Oh, wait, what?
Oh, there it is.
Was that good enough? Was that meta enough?
That'll work for me. Thanks for joining us, folks. If you like what you like the video. If you didn't, dislike it. It's fine. It's engagement regardless. And leave a comment once we end the live stream. Thanks for dropping by, everybody in the chat, and anybody who watches later on. We'll see you around.
Bye, y'all.
Truck to refrigerators to dumpster, 360 spin onto the Palace, backflip gainer into the trash.